Welcome to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. My name is Stephanie Dingbaum. I am a mental health therapist, and I am so passionate about all things health and wellness, personal development, and empowering others to be their most authentic and best versions of themselves. Here at Therapeutic Intentions, we are all about having intentional and authentic conversations on whole body health, healing practices, mindset, and ways to uplevel your life so you can truly be the best version of you. If you are a woman, a mom, hope to someday be a mom, a healer, or just in a place where you want to start prioritizing yourself and your health, then this podcast is for you. I am so glad you're here. If you're ready, let's get to it. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. I have a really exciting collab today, you guys. She's unlike any collab I brought on so far. And I mean that, and you'll understand as we get into it, but I mean that in more ways than one. She's amazing. She's unique down to her core. So I have Hilary Burton on today. I met Hilary at the Powerhouse Women Conference briefly. I mean, truth be told, I met what feels like hundreds of women, and if you were to ask me what I remember about each of them, I didn't. But every time I met somebody new, I would take a screenshot of their Instagram page as a reminder, okay, when you get home, you need to connect with this woman. And so Hilary was one of them. I was intrigued by her business, by just her whole demeanor. She gives off this feminine energy that you don't pick up on that with every woman you meet. And so, yeah, I reached out to her. Before reaching out to her, I did some creeping, in depth on her website, on her face or on her Instagram page. And yeah, she's unique. She's not like every woman I brought on the podcast, and she has a unique story and just a unique stance to bring to the podcast. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear from her today. She's not just an entrepreneur. She is, I would say, the embodiment of feminine energy. If I had to put it into my own words, that's what I would say. So, Hilary, can you introduce yourself to listeners?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for the intro. I feel so honored. That's incredible. Thank you. I am Hilary Burton. I am a founder of Goddess Guidance, and I help women through divine feminine energy and sensual energetics.
Love. The
embodiment of divine feminine. Oh, girl.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you are. You're Mrs. Feminine Energy. I don't know.
Oh,
for listeners, if you don't follow Hilary, go on her Instagram page. So you have two, but which one is your primary?
So Goddess Guidance Official is my primary business page. Yeah, _ Goddess of Greatness _ So you can see other things that I'm up to more in my personal life. But yeah, business is Goddess Guidance Official.
Okay. So go on to her professional Instagram page and you will understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. She truly embodies it. That is who Hilary is. So for listeners who maybe are what do you mean feminine energy? What does that look and feel like? How would you describe that to somebody who maybe has never truly understood that word?
So I feel like one of the best ways to explain it is that we all have feminine energy, we all have masculine energy. So men and women have both. And so for us to be in the way we're supposed to operate in the world and what feels right, and the easiest way for us to make things happen in our world is for women to be operating in their feminine energy and for men to be mostly in their masculine energy. And so when men are in their masculine and they give us this safe, stable place, then women can be in their feminine. And so when we're in our feminine, we are flowing, we're creative, we are multiplying. And so that's what we do. We receive. And so when we're receiving the safety, when we're receiving the stability, then we can go out and we can multiply with our creative energy. So we multiply love, we multiply success, we multiply abundance, whatever that is. And so everyone we are around benefits from that when we are in our divine feminine energy, because we are creating all of this love and, abundance and success.
I like that. And I would even go as far as to say, when you tap into that feminine energy more, you're also tapping into your authentic version of you, I feel.
Yes.
I made the switch a year and a half ago. I left my job at the school where I was a school social worker, and I started my business. And it was like, if you are insightful at all, if you're intuitive at all, I could tell that difference from working around like this primarily masculine energy day in and day out, like routine, structure, the bells ring every time class is over, like all of that stuff. Like there's just a lot of like masculine energy in that type of a workplace. And then to going into like freedom where I have my own schedule, I make my own schedule, I am in charge of my business, I work in creativity, like it was such a transition. And even that, like, that's a concept. When I think about feminine energy, I just naturally do think about the workplace, because so many like corporate world and different businesses, like it's such a masculine energy when you're there.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy how making that switch into my entrepreneurial journey, like heavily tapped into that feminine energy then. Did you experience that professionally in your own journey?
Oh yeah. No, and that's so true. And all the structure, right? And all the super strict, we don't veer off of that, right? We're not in flow when we're in those structures. So yeah, no, I went through a really similar journey. And as you and I were talking, I feel like we're most equipped to help the person that we used to be, right?
Yes.
And so I was in my masculine energy for so long. I was married to a man who was in his feminine energy. So that just immediately put me into my masculine. And so I was operating in my masculine energy for about a decade. And I was working in my masculine energy, same kind of thing, in an outpatient, therapy clinic. And there's no room for flow. There's no room for creativity. There's no room for intuition. It's you show up at this time, you do this, you do that, and then you go home. And then, I was in my masculine energy at home. I was doing everything and responsible for all of that. And it's so draining. It's so draining and it's so exhausting. And I feel like that's what so many women are stuck in, is this space of just exhaustion, right? And so being able to recognize that and knowing that being in my masculine energy, being in control of everything, not having, stability, not feeling like I have safety, feeling like I have to provide that for myself, is what's draining us. And so then we don't have the energy to be in our flow and be creative and, enjoy the things that we want to enjoy. So I was in my masculine for a very long time until, I was figuring all of this out, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel good anymore. This really doesn't feel good. And I'm so tired.
Yes. Yeah. And then burnout hits, and that's a real thing. It's actually what I thought was interesting. And I just recently learned this, but through some research that I was doing, found out like the public school system. So I used to work in an elementary school. The public school system, way back in the day, the person who designed that did it because they wanted to create more blue collar workers, more blue collar, factory workers. Yeah. Way back in the day. That's why we have bells that tell us like when you can go to lunch. And I was like, wow. OMG, no wonder it feels so masculine. You know what I mean? Like
that is so fascinating, but it makes so much sense.
I know. Yeah.
Here's your hour lunch, it's like, here's your 30-minute lunch break. Here's your little bit of outside time. Now back to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They wanted to create more people to go into the workforce. So they made school to emulate that workforce. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, like I never was like super, super pro homeschool, but the more I learn about the public school system and the history behind it all, I'm like, I don't want my kids to be primarily in the masculine energy every day. Like, I don't want that. It's just so fascinating. Yeah.
And especially, because we both worked in pediatrics for a long time, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
Thinking about that, oh my gosh, and what that's instilling in even our special needs kiddos, and oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah, I know. It changes my whole outlook on the school system. I mean, it is wild. So one thing I wanted to ask you about, for the listeners who are busy moms, who have a lot going on, they're juggling a lot, you mentioned, they tend to be like the head of the household as far as like being in charge of schedules, grocery pickup, picking up the kids, dropping the kids off, like all of that. Like, what advice do you have for listeners, busy moms who are like, where do I even start with this? How do I even begin to slow down and tap into my feminine? Like, any advice for that?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like when we're in that energy, we think we have to do everything, right? And I'm the type of person, I'm type A Scorpio perfectionist.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I do things better than, everyone else. And so I'm like, well, it's just easiest for me to do it and do it right and have it done the way I expect it. But we have to let go of that control, because that control is masculine. That control is keeping us from being in flow. That control is keeping us from being creative, from letting go, right? And so when we have that control, we feel like we're not safe without it. And so we have to let go of some of that. And so if you have a partner, I would suggest, this is daunting, making a list of everything you do. Because we don't consider the emotional labor, right? We don't consider just even the thought labor of putting together a grocery list, right? Or thinking of the meal plan for the week. And like, that's labor. That takes energy. And so think about all the things that you do, list them out, and then figure out how you can delegate that with your partner. Your partner might not be, the best cook in the world, but share some of that responsibility. Like, delegate that to them. Maybe they, get food out, or they're the ones making the grocery list. They're checking the fridge to see what you have, right? So it's the small things that we get so inundated with, and it just feels never ending. So make a list of everything you do, like physically, emotionally, and then see how you can delegate some of that. And we have to let go of the perfectionism and the control. It might not be done the way you think is the right way, and that's okay. It's done, right? It's done. And now maybe that gave you an extra 10 minutes in your day to go meditate or go on a walk or just sit in a quiet room, So
yeah, I like
that. A little, extra time and mental energy to prioritize yourself.
That's such a hard concept, I think, for so many women. I'm like you, like I load the dishwasher best and I do this best. And it's like giving up that control is hard for a lot of us because, for years, and even if you go back, way, way back into our ancestors, like women ran the household. And so to make that switch, I mean, that's not easy because that's ingrained in us. It's a part of our identity, you could even go as far to say. So, but I do also like what you said, like we don't feel safe without that control. So it's a safety, it's like an emotional safety net too, which is so deep. That's so mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into that with like regulating our nervous system, right? And being able to work through all of that, being able to really see, why am I feeling these things and where did this come from? And how can I, work through that in my current relationship? And, most of us are safe. We are safe, and we can just let go of some of that bit by bit.
Right. And I think, like you mentioned, even just having a transparent conversation with your spouse about just like being honest about the burnout. I mean, so many of my therapy clients that are moms, we are always talking about the mental load that moms carry, and that men, not to put them down or anything, but like they just don't have any idea. They're just oblivious to that mental load. Like, it's not just that, I have to go pick up the kids from school to take them to a doctor's appointment. That's just the surface. But I also have to think, okay, if I have to drive from work to go get the kids and I have to get them to the doctor's appointment at 3:00, that means I have to leave the house at this time because it takes this many minutes to get from the house to the school and then from the school to the doctor's office. And, you have to like do all of that math. And like, that's part of that mental load that men have no idea sometimes that we carry, that moms carry. That's just a small example.
It is. No, and then even like, that's a great example too, because even with that, so say you want to delegate that, right? And you tell your partner, hey, I want you to pick up the kids at this time. You're still doing all that mental load. Yeah. So you tell your partner, here's the schedule. So they can see what time they get out of school. They can see the doctor's office location and just put it on their plate. Worst thing that happens, your kids don't make it to that doctor's appointment and there's another one. That's the worst thing that happens. And then
they're 5 minutes late. They'll be okay. I mean, whatever.
You drop that delegation. It's not in your concern. It's no longer something that you need to be, thinking about. You didn't have to plan it all out. You put it on his plate, and now he has a really good idea of how much you are doing mentally and how much that takes, and is willing to, put in a little more work. So,
yeah. So that delegating not only helps you to release control, but it's also helping the women who are listening to gain some more of that free time, which ultimately then lends them the opportunity to tap more into their feminine as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like
and then the women tapping into their feminine, and then the men tapping into their masculine with that too, right? Because men are here to serve. Men are here to serve and protect and provide that safe, stable environment. And they want to be helpful. They want to do these things for us. It's just, our society is so backwards right now, right? And everything's just so confusing. And they're like, I don't know what to do. She handles it all. I'm not worried about it. But it's fulfilling for both sides to be in that energy and to work together.
Is society backwards because we're now in that era where like more women are in the workforce than have ever been in the past? Is that why we're backwards?
I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that go into it. You know, and each generation has had a different way of raising their kids. And so I feel like our generation right now, our parents, like, it was just the beginning of our moms going to work, right? And so they didn't know how to balance the fact that they still had to run a household and now they're starting to go to work and all of that. And so those men grew up seeing their moms handle it all.
Right.
And their dads were, you know, off working and not really involved in the household. I mean, some work, right? But in general. And so that's what they grew up seeing, that the dad just goes to work, provides financially for the family. And that's, you know, their contribution. Right. And so now this generation of women is like, wait.
Well, now we have way more, like, I think we have so many more female entrepreneurs than this society has ever seen. I mean, so that's even a huge shift. Like, you're seeing women, you know, girls are growing up, kids in general, but, you know, little girls are growing up seeing their moms, like, go after their dreams and making shit happen and reaching for the stars. Like, I think that's a huge impact on today's children.
It is.
Example.
Yeah, no, and our world is so much more complex than, you know, the world of our parents' generation. Like, there is so much more to handle and to think about and to deal with, you know, and so I feel like
because our parents' generation didn't have to worry about the comparison on social media like we do.
Yeah, none of that, and just like when you think about the complexities of how many opportunities there are, how many things are happening now, how we communicate, right? There's just endless influx of information and, you know, temptations and all of this extra stress that now women are also dealing with. And it's too much. Yeah. And so we get to this exhaustion breaking point, and then we're like, where do we go from here? You know?
Right. Yeah. That's
your divine feminine.
That's the answer. So I will say that's perfect transition. Cool. With my therapy clients, ever since I learned more about the topic of tapping into your feminine, you know, I've really been instilling in some of my female clients, like, the importance of receiving, like, not turning things down, being open to receiving, whether it be money, whether it be help, like, whatever it may be, like, don't turn it down, or even just something as simple as compliments, like that energy of receiving, that's part of tapping into that feminine. So I'm always, it's funny, like, as I've known more about this and learned more about this, I recognize now when things are, like, coming to me, when I have the opportunity to receive, and I'm like, no, don't push it away. Like, accept the compliment and, you know, accept the money or whatever it might be. Like, don't push it away, which is our MO. It's like, that's what we've been conditioned to do. And I just think it's so interesting. And I've been really bringing that up with clients more. And then also along the lines of that, I've been bringing up, as far as tapping into that feminine, like getting in touch with your inner child, because I'm assuming growing up as a girl, you didn't worry about what others thought of you. Your ego wasn't running the show. So you just did authentically what filled your cup up and what made you feel good. And I think part of tapping into that feminine is tapping into that inner child and what she loved to do, what just truly authentically filled her cup up, whether that be dancing, whether it be journaling, drawing, like whatever it might be. I mean, do you have any insight on any of that?
Yeah, all of that. I love it.
I know.
So with the inner child and play, right? That's where our feminine comes out. That's where we're flowing and being in joy and pleasure and having fun. And we're not worried about the societal expectations. We're not worried about peer pressure. We're not worried about self-worth and self-love and confidence, right? We're just naturally confident. We are just naturally doing what feels good. And so that's where that inner child play comes out. And if you notice the things that like you gravitate to now as an adult, it's the things that you just did naturally when you were a kid. So dancing, playing, being outdoors, you know, whatever that is, just creating, right? How we would do imaginary play with Barbies or whatever that was. We were creating these whole other realities and universes. Yes. And so being able to just be free to do that without any pressure.
If you are short or petite in any way, then listen up. This ad is for you. Did you know that nearly half of all women in the US are 5'4" or under, therefore considered petite? Being petite should not mean compromising on your style. For years, I shopped in the children's section at certain stores just to be able to find clothes that fit me somewhat decently without needing to be hemmed or altered. Even when I did shop in the adult section, it was always difficult to find clothes that came in extra small, or even worse, extra, extra small. The only way to find petite clothes was for me to order online. But that meant not being able to try them on or know if they fit correctly or not. When I finally did find some loyal companies that actually sold my sizes, I still almost always needed alterations to be done. Either the arms were too long, the pants were too long, or the waist was still wider than I'd like. I felt like I was not asking for too much to be able to have clothes that fit me to a T without needing to spend extra money getting clothes altered. Due to the poor fit in clothes, I had grown to hate shopping. Seriously, you guys, I never looked forward to it, especially knowing I wasn't going to find something that fit me just right. This frustration led me to researching style boxes in hopes that maybe, just maybe, I could find a style box to accommodate my petite size. Initially, I hit dead end after dead end. Either they didn't offer petite options or they didn't go down to extra, extra small in sizes, which is what I needed. All my prayers were answered one day when I stumbled upon a clothes subscription box called Short Story. Short Story's mission is to help petite women dress with total confidence. They acknowledge that fashion has never been petite friendly, and they are completely rewriting the rules. Amazing, right? They have clothes for petites of all sizes, all heights, and all shapes. Even better, they get their inspiration directly from their buyers, people like you and me who subscribe to them. They literally create and design their clothing lines using our specific feedback. How freaking amazing is that, you guys? There's so much I love about Short Story, but I'll keep it short and sweet so you can get back to the show. First things first, you can order boxes monthly, bi-monthly, every 3 months. You can personalize it to your own specific shopping needs, which is awesome. No more ordering online, going into stores. I get my box monthly and it always comes with 7 items. I would say on average, I keep anywhere from 4 to 6 of the items depending on the month. And another added benefit, when I started, I took their styling quiz and gave them my specific measurements for my entire body. We're talking bust, waist, height, arm length, etc., which means no more alterations. Everything fits my arms, my legs, all of it. It's like, I don't know, I feel like I have my own personal stylist. It makes me feel like a freaking rock star. And after each box, I'm able to give my stylist feedback on the item she sent and requests that I have for future boxes. So I'm always getting my fashion needs met depending on what time of year we're in and what I'm looking for and what events I might have coming up. I am always satisfied too, because it's pretty rare for my request to not be granted, not gonna lie. Finally, when you fill out your styling quiz in the beginning, you get to tell them your price point, what you can and can't afford, what style you prefer, what you like, what you don't like when it comes to clothing, and you can give them access to your Pinterest style board, which, Truth be told, best thing I ever did for myself, I literally have manifested my Pinterest style board in real life, you guys, because they look at it each month, and if I pin new items to it, they'll try and send me items that I've pinned or close to it. Talk about an added bonus. It's just amazing. So seriously, I feel like I've bragged enough. I'm sure you get the point by now. Short Story is for petites of all ages, all sizes. If you are 5'4" and under, this is the subscription box for you. No more shopping in stores. Let your clothes come directly to you. Hopefully, this will then save you time. I know we all need more of that, and money in the long run. I wouldn't be recommending a company that I myself don't strongly support and believe in personally. I have been a loyal subscriber of Short Story for over 6 years now, and I am so proud of it. Be honest. If you are short or petite like me, wouldn't you love to show up at professional events or family gatherings feeling confident in what you're wearing, knowing that it came tailored to your specific fashion needs? If you're intrigued at all, go into my show notes for today's episode and use the referral link that I put in there. This link will waive your $25 styling fee for your first box. If you are anything like me and you're ready to up-level your style, show up as that next level version of yourself, and feel like $1,000,000, then subscribe to Short Story today. I promise you will not regret it. All links will be in my show notes for today's episode.
Oh, you're talking about the receiving. Okay, the receiving is huge. That affects everything. And so what that comes down to is our self-worth. So if you don't feel worthy, then you're not comfortable receiving. Because if you don't feel worthy, you feel like, oh, well, if someone does something for me, I'm going to have to do something for them. Or, this is going to be transactional, or I don't want them to do that for me. But if you have that inner self-worth and you know that you're worthy just by being, just because you exist, all of that just comes to you. And it's just like this warm hug. That's how I can describe it. And it's funny. I was just out at a restaurant last night. I was talking with my bestie, and, a man gave me a compliment, and I was like, oh, well, thank you, and I just received it, and you just internalize it. It doesn't have to be, he wants something from me. It doesn't have to be, I need to return something. It's just, wow, I really appreciate that. And it felt good. And so being able to just internalize that and feel it, be like, oh, I love that. Thank you. And it's so sincere. And when you internalize the compliment like that, people are like, oh, wow. It wasn't like, oh, no, or, oh, do you really think that? Take it, feel it, internalize it, give yourself a boost and go on,
Right. Yeah. It's so funny that you say that. There's so much I feel I could say on this topic, but it's funny. I notice, and maybe it's just like our parents' generation, but I noticed that with my mom. And Mom, if you're listening, like, no big deal. But like, I noticed that when somebody wants to give her something, she so deeply feels like she needs to return the favor. And it's like, stop. Like, that could be never ending. That's not what this is about. You just receive. You just let it come to you. The world will work itself out, and you'll get an opportunity at some point to give back. But that's not what this transaction is about. And again, maybe that's just their generation, but like, and it's the same with compliments. We do that as women. Like, a woman compliments you on your hair, and you feel, just society makes us feel like we have to immediately return that compliment. Like, oh yeah, you look great too. Like, just accept it. You don't have to, I don't know. Like, it's something that's been conditioned in us almost.
Yeah. It's programmed that it needs to be transactional, right? Yeah. Because we're programmed that as women, we're not worthy just by being. We have to give something. We have to bring something to the table. We have to provide something. And so, right, because that makes more workers, and that makes more, just going down the line. But just, if we make it not transactional and just embody that, and like, someone just gave you like a puff of fairy dust, just take it in. It's just a warm hug,
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that really like takes me back to my teen years, because you always go through like your awkward teen phase, but like, I went through a phase where I was just extremely confident about myself. and like got knocked down a couple pegs by, girls are catty little bitches, whatever, got knocked down a couple pegs by girls that didn't like that confidence that was exuding from me. And it's, you like internalize that and then you think like, oh, this is a bad thing. And then you become a woman and that is still a part of you. Like, then you have to re-teach yourself that like, actually it's okay to show up confidently because we're all mirrors of each other. So those women that are offended by my confidence, that's just, they're seeing themselves in me. They're just seeing an insecurity of theirs that, it's really like touching a sweet spot in them, unfortunately. But it's just so, saying all of this is like really bringing all of that to the surface. It's so interesting to think how, for years, childhood, teen years and on, like we're conditioned to think a certain way or not think a certain way. And ultimately it's like pulling us further away from that feminine energy that we need to be embodying at our core.
Oh, so interesting. I feel for your teenage self.
Oh, I've done the child wound work, so no worries. I've
that hit my teenage self, and I'm like, oh, we're okay. We're safe
for real.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You just learn to validate yourself, and she's okay now. She's thriving.
Yeah.
So in your coaching business, because you mentioned like ultimately this receiving comes down to like a self-worth issue. Do you do a lot of work on helping women like build up their worthiness, their self-worth?
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. That's what stops us from being able to receive. That's what stops us from being able to flow and be in our feminine. That's what puts us in our masculine, right? Because we don't feel safe. And then that's what I really resonated with what you're talking about, insecurities, because that is one of the biggest things. And if women supported women, this world would look completely different.
Yes.
Because so many women are competing with women, and we're not here to compete. Men are here to compete for women. We are not here to compete for men, right? So there's abundance, there's men for all of us. We don't need to be in this, war for men's attention or for what we can get. And we're all worthy. We're all worthy of love and abundance. And there's plenty for all of us. And so if we can get over these insecurities, if we can address those in our younger, inner child, then we won't be competing with women. We would just be confident in what we are and, our energy and our love that we bring. And so that would attract the right people to us. And so I feel like knowing our self-worth, that carves away at all of those insecurities. And then it's not an issue. Like I'm a very confident person. I did not used to be. My inner teenager would just be shocked right now to see.
I bet. Yeah.
But even going out, just the way I interact with people is so much different.
Yes.
And I'll go out. I'm very confident. I'm dressed well. And girl, I'm 6 foot tall.
Are you? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And I was wearing 4-inch heels last night. 4-inch platform heels. And this is a little personal, but I'll share it. So, I used to be so insecure about my height because I was always the tallest girl. I was taller than all the boys until like sophomore year of high school. And it was so uncomfortable. And like, I was dorky. I had the braces. I had the whole thing, So I was so insecure about that. And I married a man who was shorter than me, who was also insecure. And so my entire life, I made myself smaller. So I made myself smaller to fit everyone around me. And even, my mom was a little bit taller too. She was, 5'10", 5'9"-ish. And so, growing up, her and I would go shopping together, and I was always drawn to the gorgeous high heels. I was so drawn to like these gorgeous shoes. And she was always just like, oh, you don't want to be that tall. You don't want people to notice you. You don't want to stand out. So I would never.
Wow, she had an inner wound that needed healed. Oh, yeah.
It was her inner wound from not wanting to be seen and not wanting to be noticed. And so she projected that onto me. And so I grew up thinking, oh, well, I don't want to be this tall and I don't want to stand out. And, I need to make myself smaller to make other people feel comfortable. Because we as women are taught that everyone else's feelings and emotions are more important than our own. And so we put ourselves aside to make everyone else feel more comfortable. And through this journey, especially my journey as a dominatrix.
Yeah. Oh, we're going there next. Don't worry.
Yes. I've realized that my confidence in my power comes from that. Right. And from owning that. And I don't want to attract people who want me to be smaller.
Yep.
I don't want to be surrounding myself with people who want to dim my light. And that's what I was doing. And it's not even that they were doing it in a malicious way or intentional way, right? They just, my light and my power and my confidence was off-putting to them. So when you know that and you know the power that you hold, when you go out and you interact with people, it's so different. Like you will see the people that are not interested in you, and that's perfectly fine. You know, they're not your people. That's okay.
Right.
Not everyone's cup of tea on champagne.
Right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. I don't even know where to start. There's so much I want to say in response to that, Hilary. Like, first of all, I didn't realize you were that tall, but that makes sense because I just recently saw one of your posts on Instagram. You were wearing the long black bell-bottom pants with heels, and one of your friends who must be short or petite had commented like, I have that, but in the petite size. And I was like, oh, that's me. So we're total opposites because I am 5 foot. I've always been short and petite. And like your insecurity was around being tall. My insecurity was around being small. So it's so interesting that we bring those like polar opposites to the episode today. But there's just so much to be said about us making ourselves little in a room. Like up until this year, that was me too. I think it's just, some of it comes from our moms projecting onto us. Absolutely. But then some of it just comes from society. Like for years and years, women were told to just be seen, but not be heard. Mm-hmm. And now we're in this era where like women are speaking up, women are going after their dreams, they're making shit happen, and they're not quiet anymore. And I think it's so healing to see this new generation of women that are speaking their truth, that are, making their dreams a reality. I just think there's so much generational healing that's being done with this current generation because of that. But there's just something to be said about when you finally realize that, oh, I don't need to be small. Mm-hmm. I don't need to like make myself little in this room. And when, not just that, but then when you're around your people, like people who don't want you to make yourself small, it's so empowering. Yes. When you find that circle. I mean, that's so empowering.
And when you're being genuinely you, authentically you in all of this space that you take up, like now my mindset is I want to take up as much space as I can. Like I want my presence to change a room. And it's not from an ego way. It's from I know the energy I have and I know how that can affect people. And like, I want to bring that light, Mm-hmm. And I think
it's beautiful.
When you were talking about like women in business and women are speaking their minds now, I think there's an important distinction. Something told me I need to say this between the women who are the super boss babe, in your face, very over the top about it. And then the women who are carving their own path confidently. I feel like there's a distinction because now when we say, female entrepreneur or boss babe, people get in their mind that it's just this super over the top, aggressive, overbearing woman.
Yes.
And I feel like many of those women probably are operating their masculine energy. And that's why it's off-putting to people. It's off-putting to men. It can be off-putting to women, right? And then they're like, oh, that's not something I want to pursue. I don't want to be seen that way. And it can look so different. You and I are both female entrepreneurs.
Right.
And, we're feminine. We have great energy and we're kind and we're building these incredible businesses to help other women and to help other people.
Yep.
And so it doesn't have to look like that stereotype of, aggressive.
I agree. It's why I don't really like the term boss bitch because I feel like it's so aggressive and that's like not me. Like I'm definitely like letting myself be heard and seen way more than I ever used to, but I'm not like coming on strong either. Like it's kind of an energy that kind of like sneaks up on you. That's my energy. Like I'm not a boss bitch.
Through it. It's soft, right? It's powerful. It's confident, but it's soft. It doesn't have to be, hard and aggressive and pushing.
Exactly.
Because that energy doesn't work for us in the long run. It might get us, a few steps ahead, but it's not something we can sustain.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Okay. So you mentioned the dominatrix side of things. Tell listeners what that is. Tell listeners what that means. Like, it's not just the sexual side of things. There's way more to it than just that, though that is a piece of it. But talk about how you incorporate this into your business and into your life.
So I love this. And we were talking about confidence and power, right? And so much of that for me came from this journey. So being a dominatrix, it was always something that I've been fascinated with. And again, like the shoes and the clothes, and I was like, I want to embody that. And it was always these strong, powerful women, right? And they were just commanding a presence and commanding this energy. And it was something I had always just been fascinated by. And so several years ago, I was like, okay, I want to do this. And so I went through training. I went through an academy because, as women who have been through all the education, all the degrees, the certifications, right? We feel like we need that to,
yes,
to feel like we know what we're doing. So that's
unfortunately, we feel like we need the title. We feel like we need the certification, or I can't practice. Yes.
I need the training so I can be qualified in this, but
it's
incredibly helpful. And like, how do you learn how to be a dominatrix?
I know. That's what I'm intrigued about. Yeah.
So I'm so glad I did it. And the main thing was it was rooted in psychology, right? And so it's rooted in why people are interested in what they are, why they have their specific kinks, their specific fetishes. And a lot of that comes down to the inner child, solving some of that childhood trauma, working through that. And it's such a unique way to go about it because it's not, I call it sensual therapy because it's not a therapy you can get in any other way.
Yeah.
But it's so therapeutic because we're working through all of these traumas. We're working through all of this psychology, all of this sensory regulation. Wow. So the incredible thing for me is the energy exchange. And so it's, I'm a dominatrix, so I'm dominant, and the people that serve me are in a submissive energy. And so it's fulfilling on both sides. Most of the time, what people envision is that similar to like a boss babe, I'm very aggressive and mean and hurtful. And that's so far from the case, right? Yeah. And it's not a role that you put on. It's not a character that you play. It's your energy. So it's all based in confidence, self-worth, self-respect, having boundaries, and then exuding that energy and that presence that men just want to serve. Wow. And so it's so cool because it's really fulfilling on both sides.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So that's something that you brought into your coaching business, right?
It is, because as I'm doing this, girl, this is wild, but men are literally on their knees serving me tea, holding my book, cleaning my house. And it's so fulfilling.
That's amazing.
And, yes. And they want this because it's not an outlet that they can get anywhere else. And it comes from the energy of that, right? In my presence. And they want to be in the presence and the energy of a beautiful woman, and that's fulfilling for them. And so they'll do whatever, I require of them, whatever I ask of them. And so as I'm sitting here and all of this is happening, I'm like, okay, one, this is real life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And this is possible for every woman. Like, this is possible for all of us. We all can exude this energy through self-worth, through confidence. We all have this within us. We're all goddesses. Yeah. We all embody that. We all embody the divine feminine. We just might be disconnected from it. But every woman should know what that reverence, that service, like that adoration feels like. Yeah. And so when I was going through my coaching content, I knew I wanted to empower women, but adding this into it is just, it's so incredible.
Yeah, you're like taking the empowering them to a whole nother level is what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And I love that most of the female empowerment content out there is about women being superior and men being less than. And so I love that this changes that, right? And it's not superior, inferior. It's not better than, less than. It's we're equal, and you are choosing to put yourself in this dynamic for me. You are choosing to give me that power. You're choosing to give me your energy in that way and to serve me in that way because you genuinely are fulfilled by it, because you want to, because you're serving this primal need to be in service of the divine feminine, right? To protect and provide that stability for the divine feminine. And so it's an outlet that men don't really get now. You know, they don't experience that. And even when they are in their masculine, it's providing, but it's not in that service way.
Man, you're speaking my language. I don't know. I just love this. This is awesome. I like that you said primal need. I almost feel like doing this work means you set down your ego to address those primary needs that have been unaddressed for so long. Like setting our pride, setting our ego aside, coming back to the authentic, what our bodies are here to do, are here to experience. I love that.
So much of it, both. Sorry. I just wanted to talk about the primal step of ego. So because a lot of people are really confused about it, and they approach me and they're like, oh, those must be really weak men. And I'm like, oh no, no, they have the strongest mindset and the strongest mentality to be able to put their ego aside, to step inside and say, hey, I want to give this to you. I want to give this power to you. I want to give this control to you. And knowing that we have a trusted relationship, right? Knowing that they're going to be safe. They're in good hands. Like, harm's not going to come to them. And they know that. And so establishing that with someone first is huge, right? You need trust. But once they know that I can hold that space for them, they're able to set their ego aside. And that is so difficult for so many of us to do, especially men.
It is.
So I'm like,
especially men.
It's not weakness. Submission is not weakness.
You're right. It takes a very strong man to be able to do what you're saying. It takes a very strong man. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And the, I'm open about what I do. And so I talk about it even when I'm out and about, and, I'll meet people, and a lot of men will be very put off by it, or they'll butt heads with me about it and say, oh, I would never do that. You would never, control me. And I'm like, well, you might have some insecurities you want to work through.
Right.
Because if you're feeling that way and you feel like you have to be in control and you can't let some of that go, that's coming from your ego. And, your ego's in the driver's seat. So not being able to set that aside, that's also draining for men.
It is, yeah. And I mean, you can use the word control, but I don't even think it's about like giving you control. I think it's just about balancing out the feminine with the masculine energy in those moments. Yeah. I mean, call it control if you want, but I think it's really just about gaining that balance. Yeah. Or like giving up some of that energy. And that's so interesting. So you do attract both men and women? Like you work with both men and women?
So on the dominatrix side, I only work with men because I feel like men need to know what that feels like. They need to know what it feels like to give up that power, that position, right? And I love the play of the feminine and masculine and with that. And girl, I know I'm just glowing. Like when men are when men are serving me, the energy that they are giving me, like it's so recharging. Every woman needs to experience it. All of us do. It's incredible. Yeah. And so I work with women in the coaching side to help them, build up their self-worth and build up their confidence to be able to embody that, so that men feel the need and they want to serve women in that way. And so I do work with both, but women, it's just in helping them truly embody the divine feminine, embody their inner goddess, and bring that out.
Wow. That's a perfect balance, doing the dominatrix side of things and the coaching side of things. That's just such a perfect balance in your business. It just makes complete sense. I feel like it just makes it whole, Everything just comes full circle, I feel like, for you. That's awesome.
It does.
What a fulfilling... it's got to feel so fulfilling doing what you do.
It does. And it's crazy where our journey takes us, right? Because it wasn't something I plan on doing as a business. Oh, okay. And we need to talk about this too. And, it wasn't something I ever thought I would share with anyone. Oh, it was just this secret, dark part of myself, right? And it doesn't need to be dark, but that's what society says, right? It's taboo and it's something that we don't share. And so it was this separate part of myself that I hid away, and it felt very shameful, and it felt very, just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I did that for years. And, I have a therapy business, and then I was doing this, and this was tucked away in the shadows.
Yeah.
And when I started my women's coaching business, I was like, wait, but women need to know this. They need to hear this. And so that was one of the biggest, inner shadow that I had to overcome was bringing that out into the light.
I bet.
And so incorporating that into my women's content, I had to work through so many fears and judgment and perceived shame, right? I didn't feel shameful about it. Nothing I'm doing is wrong. Both sides are consenting, and we're both in this incredible energy, and it's fulfilling, right? It's this beautiful energy exchange, and it's healing. It's healing for both of us.
Yeah.
And so when I really sat down and looked at it, I was like, okay, nothing I'm doing here is negative. I'm healing these people with my energy, and I want to share this with other women to build women up.
Yeah.
And, there might be 4 or 5 people in my life that are not okay with it, and that, have judgment about it, and, shame me for it. And that's okay.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It's so funny how, when you create the business of your dreams, how it brings such healing to you personally. And it's just so healing when you create a soul-aligned business. Yeah. You made it to serve others, but it also serves you. It brings healing, and it's such a beautiful thing. I completely get that. One thing I do want to point out. So when I first looked onto your page, your brand, so to speak, what really, my perception, what I really saw at first glance was this Cleopatra energy, which now that I know you fairly well, I feel like that's so synchronistic because, when I think of Cleopatra, I think of this goddess who is laying on the chair and the men are fanning her with palm branches and stuff. And hello, that's kind of what you've developed. That's kind of what you've made with your business, with the dominatrix business. So it's so funny because that was my immediate reaction when I first went onto your page was ooh, her brand is very Egyptian Cleopatra. Ooh, I love this. And that's kind of what you've developed, which I just think is so crazy. But that's
I'm so obsessed with that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Were you intentional about that?
No, but I feel like my authenticity was just coming out in that, right? And so, and I think actually because all of us has so quickly evolved that I think when we first met and you first looked at my content, I don't think my dominatrix stuff was in there. It was just my divine feminine goddess stuff. So you wouldn't have even known that men actually do that for me.
No, it was really just the pearls, the headshots where you're wearing the pearls, and then just the browns and the tans, and I don't know, it just screamed Cleopatra to me, and I was like, oh gosh, this girl.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it makes sense with what you've developed.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, I feel like that was coming through, right? And I hadn't opened up about the dominatrix stuff yet, but that energy was still coming through, and even just online, you could tell that. That's incredible.
And I bet Cleopatra was tall like you are. I bet she was. I feel like this makes complete sense. That's so funny. Oh, I love it.
Well, I feel like going back to the authenticity stuff too. Yeah. I had my life in all these different categories, and it was I felt like I wasn't being truly authentic, right? Because I was sharing these things, but nobody knew, where it was really coming from. And this was really cool. I had a coaching client, and her and I met up for happy hour one evening, and we were just talking about things. And she's like, she mentioned something about sensual. And I was like, okay, I want to tell her about, everything I do as a dominatrix. So I opened up to her about it, and she's like, okay, one, that's fucking awesome.
Good.
And then two, she's like, now I understand why your content had some of an edge. She's like, there was just like a little bit of an edginess to it, like all of the power and the confidence. She's like, but I didn't know why. And she's like, now it makes so much sense. And so that really hit me, that I was like, me not being authentic and open about that is taking away from what I have to offer and what I want women to know. And so I was like, okay, that's my sign. I want to share it.
Yep. I get it, Hilary. Yeah. I totally get it, because my story with starting the podcast was very similar. It's like, this was something that was just so authentically aligned with my soul. And there's so much that I want women to know. And there's so much that, like, we just play it safe and talk about things that, you can talk about around the dinner table, but it's like, no, let's talk about things that people are afraid to talk about. Like, let's open up about things that we're not opening up about. Like, there is just such a need for that. And then when I went after it and made it happen, and then you just really come into your own. And then I started hearing from friends about, like, who listen to it regularly, are like, oh my gosh, like, when I listen to your episodes, I don't feel like it's any different from conversations we have throughout the week together. And I'm like, good, that's what I want. Like, I want to come off like it's authentic. Like, I'm not putting a face on when I'm behind the mic. This is me, and that's how it's soul aligned. When you get those compliments, when people tell you, like, oh, I was already picking up on that before you even announced that you were doing the dominatrix. Like, that's a sign that this was soul aligned for you. And that's just such a beautiful synchronicity. I love that.
And when you dive into that, right, like into your true self, and everything aligns for you. Yeah. Everything starts working out, right? Then you start flowing. You're not pushing things. You're not forcing things to happen. You don't feel like you need to control it. Things just start coming to you, receiving abundance. And then it's like, oh, this is where it's been the whole time, right here. It's right here. It's like, it's in us.
I know. Yeah. So true. I totally agree. It's like after I started the business, after I started the podcast, like, my frequency was raising, and things were just coming to me, were just naturally flowing to me. I feel like I manifest so much more quickly than I ever have before.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so cool to see things unfold once you are just doing things that are just authentically aligned and meant for your soul. Such a beautiful thing. Cool. Oh, I love talking to other people who have had these experiences. Seriously, it's so cool. So is there anything coming up, anything in the near future, anything maybe in the next year that you want to let listeners know about? Are you open to more coaching clients? Do you have space for that? What do you want to advertise to listeners?
Yeah, so I just launched a course. It's called Healed Feminine. So it's helping women figure out what stage of feminine they're in, whether it's healed feminine, wounded feminine, and how to work back to divine feminine, right? So really being in that healed feminine space. So I launched that course, and I'm going to be doing more. And then I do have a few one-to-one coaching spots open. And then something locally, I know you and I aren't local, but something I'm really excited about is I'm teaching sensual embodiment movement classes. So as women, we are so disconnected from our bodies and our sensual energy. And so it is a safe, comfortable space to just really reconnect with your sacral chakra, your sensual energy, and just dance like a goddess. So it's candlelit, it's sensual, it's gorgeous. Like,
I think I've seen video clips from this, right? Because you put a few on there, right? On your Instagram?
Yes,
yeah. Oh, it sounds so cool.
And the in-person experience is just magical, right? Because you have this community with other women, and all of our energy in the same room is just so juicy. But I do want to host some of them online. So I'm thinking about doing a live class online, so everyone all over can do it with me. And it's not quite the same as in person, but at least you get the experience and you get to connect, and really embody that. So
have you had a decent turnout? How many classes have you done?
So I've done one, and it was incredible. And so I have them scheduled monthly. So
good for you, Hilary. I love that. Awesome. And that, I didn't even think to bring this up, but you doing those movement classes, I didn't even think to tell listeners, like in the past, you were a personal trainer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of like your history professionally.
I'm an occupational therapist. So I have a master's in kinesiology, and then I'm a certified personal trainer too. So former bodybuilder. I'm in the gym still, 3-4 days a week. So I love the movement with that, but that also feels very masculine and very structured. Mm-hmm. And so the sensual embodiment is just free flowing, feeling, doing what your body feels good with. And it's incredible energy. Yeah.
Yeah. What a neat way to incorporate like your past professional experience with your current authentic, like what you want to be doing. That's awesome. Oh, I hope those classes continue to build. I mean, how awesome would it be to like see that increase and see more of a need? I mean, I really hope that happens for you because that just sounds awesome.
Yeah. And it's so huge for women. I mean, even the class that we already had, so many women were like, wow, I've never experienced this kind of connection with my body. Right. And like, girl, it's life-changing. It's life-changing just day to day. It's life-changing confidence-wise. It's life-changing sex life-wise, right? Like you feel so good about yourself.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Wow. That's so cool. Well, I will definitely put the links to the courses, to your website, to the coaching, all of that in the show notes. But what I like to end my sessions on is some rapid fire questions if you're open to it.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So what is a book that you're currently reading?
Okay.
If you are reading. Some people have said they don't read, so.
I am, and it's okay. So.
We're not holding back here, Hilary.
It's called Den of Vipers, and it's this reverse harem, like, fantasy, smutty romance.
Okay. Listen, I have some listeners.
These, like, 5 jacked tattooed guys that are all with one woman, and I'm like...
It's okay. Listen, I have listeners that are into smut, so you are speaking to them.
This is where my manifestation comes in, right? Because I'm like, oh, that's my harem of men that's coming to me, so...
Okay. I love it. Well, thanks for being honest, because I can tell you were, like, hesitant. I love that. Yeah. That's too funny. What is one thing that you can't live without besides your phone?
Ooh, my dogs.
Yeah, you have German Shepherds.
I do 2 German Shepherds, and they're the sweetest babies. They have been like pawing at the door because they have zero personal boundaries.
Yeah, are they needy? Because my friend, one of our good friends, has a German Shepherd, and he is super needy.
Yes, it's awesome. They're incredible animals though. Like so much love,
I know they're so beautiful. We have a husky. And my husband's good friend has a German Shepherd, and we got them both around the same, like, I think they were born like a week apart. And so like, we just love getting them together because they're about the same size and they're just gentle giants. And
they shed the same amount of fur.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Let's not talk about that because she is in that prime. She's molting right now. So that's fun.
See, the problem is I'm a dominatrix and I wear a lot of black. And then I have 2 German Shepherds, and I'm covered in dog hair. So it's kind of a dichotomy there.
That's true. Are your dogs boy dogs or girl dogs?
They're both girls.
Okay. I was just curious, like with the feminine energy, like just curious.
They're both girls, and I actually have one of my slave boys who comes to serve me. He always says he's coming to serve his 3 goddesses, me and my dogs. And it's so sweet. He brings them treats.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's so
sweet. Gosh. We could just do a whole episode talking about our dogs. I just love talking about my dog. That's so funny. Oh, what are their names before I move on? What are their names?
Raven and Remy.
Raven and Remy. That's cute. Oh my gosh. Love it. All right. What is your current go-to podcast, if there is one?
Ooh, I'm sad to say that I took a little break from podcasts for a bit.
Good for you. So I just interviewed Kat Kozad. Don't know if you've heard of her. And she said she doesn't listen to podcasts because she just wants to make sure that what she's putting into her podcast is so, like, I guess soul aligned. Like, it's truly her voice, not somebody else's. So she intentionally does not take in other podcasts for that reason, which I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. I never thought about that.
Yeah. You know, that's a great way to reframe it too, because I felt kind of bad about it. I was like, ooh, I haven't been listening to podcasts, but yeah, it's been nice just to kind of have a clear headspace, right? And the content I put out, it's just what I'm feeling on the day, and it's what my intuition tells me. And so, you know,
Yeah, I definitely don't blame
I'm listening to smutty books on audiobook instead of listening to podcasts.
Again, thank you for the honesty. My listeners will appreciate it. Trust me. I love it. That's awesome. What is one song that whenever it comes on, you have to sing along to, or in your case, dance along to?
Ooh, Heartache on the Dance Floor by John Party.
Ooh,
I love country music.
Okay.
I love to country dance, two-step, and swing. So that's one of my favorite songs.
Would get along with my husband then. So shout out to Mitch. So before I met Mitch, he had been doing ballroom dance classes for 11 years before I met him. So he can dance. Oh God, yeah. And it's so attractive. Yeah, he can dance. He's so good. I mean, we did ballroom dancing like for our wedding, and I love a man who can dance. I just think that's so cool. So you and him,
I love that. Yes.
If you ever come to Iowa, like you need to hit me up, because you and him could go, and like I would let you too. I think he would probably love that. Like I think it's so cool when you find somebody that's like at your level who can dance at the level that you can.
I love that. Really I love that. And I love the confidence and security you have in that to offer us to dance. So
yes. I think that's really cool. Fun. Love that. Okay, last one. What is your favorite way to relax after a long day?
I love to hang out in my hot tub.
I knew you were going to say that. That's so crazy. I'm sitting here in my head and I'm like, she's going to mention the hot tub. And if she doesn't, I'm going to tell her she should have. And you said that. That's crazy. Yeah. You have a beautiful setup at your house, Hilary.
Thank you. I even thought, how fun would it be like to record my podcast in my hot tub, you know?
Seriously. And at some point you should host a retreat, because you just have a beautiful setup where you're at.
Yeah. I love it. It's my oasis out there, and it's so peaceful and it's so recharging. Yeah.
I bet. Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. Just you and the dogs in the hot tub. Well, not the dogs, but you. The dogs are running around. That's what I envision.
It's their wild time. They love it. It's helpful.
Yeah. I love that. God, I'm hoping. I've had a hot tub on my vision board. I'm looking at my vision board for 2024. I've had a hot tub on my vision board for the last 2 years. We still haven't made it happen. I'm like, seriously, I want a hot tub. I just envision in my mind, like, once we have littles, like them running in the yard and me just chilling in the hot tub. I just would fill my cup up. Water is so healing to me. I don't know if you feel that way.
I wondered. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a beach girl through and through, and water is just so healing. So
the water is life-changing. And I know the recommended time for a hot tub is like 20 minutes. I'll be out there for hours. Okay. Sure. Like I live in the water, and it's so recharging. And I see an energy worker, she's a hypnotherapist, but we were just talking about things, and she's like, water holds energy.
Yes.
And I was like, it does. And so every night I'm in my hot tub, I'm doing this energy work, right? I'm connecting to the moon. I'm, connecting to my divine feminine, and the water is retaining that. And so then every time I get back in it, it's just this like beautiful recharge. It's incredible.
That sounds incredible.
Men are not allowed in my hot
tub. Do you have a pool too, or just a hot tub?
A pool, yeah.
You do have a pool too. I thought so. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you should bring like a sound healer over and like increase the frequency of the water. I just think that would be so cool. That would be my dream. If I had a pool, I would want to do that.
That's a great idea. I'm gonna have to do that.
You should. Are there a lot of sound healers out where you're at?
Yeah, there are. Yeah. And actually, my bestie, she bought a sound or a set of sound bowls. So she does sound healing now too. So I'm just gonna have her come over with her bowls.
Well, that's good to know, because going into 2025, I'm hoping by like early 2026, I want to start offering retreats as part of my business. It's my coaching business. And I want them to be in Arizona, and I'd like to incorporate with like I'd like to incorporate sound healing. So that's good to know that you have that connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's connect on that for sure. Because I hosted a retreat this past April in Sedona.
I saw that and I saw the price and I was like, girl, this is super intriguing. I saw it on your website and I'm not going to lie. That price is perfect. I mean, like for everything you offer in that retreat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very intrigued, Hilary.
So, and that was, so this one I did, it was different, right? Because I was kind of evolving. And so I wanted it to be more of like a kind of fitness, movement, mindset. It was a goddess retreat, but it was more of like mindset and movement and, more structure. Yeah. And so now my retreats are going to look so different, like really diving into the energy work, the self-worth, and the divine feminine. So
love that.
I'm really excited. And I have plans for like a goddess worship retreat. So there's women as goddesses, and then there are men who serve us.
Love that too.
So that's in the works, but
there's definitely there's a need. Mm-hmm. Good for you. I'm so proud of you. This is awesome just to see you like in your flow and just going after your dreams, and it's all aligned and meant for you, and it's a beautiful thing. So Thank you for sharing this with listeners. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for sharing all of this, because I'm telling you, like in the Midwest, especially, like this is just not something people talk about, I feel. And so this is a topic that just needs to be brought to the surface more. And so I just am really appreciative that you agreed to come on and share all of your expertise with listeners.
I love that. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I feel like you and I were so aligned, especially with like, our education and our past history and what we're trying to, create now and what we're trying to do for women. And so I absolutely love that. And yes, thank you for the beautiful opportunity. It's been so fun to share.
Don't worry. We're going to stay connected because I'm sure there's a lot we can gain from one another. So you can't get
I think we can have like a weekly podcast and still have stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so for listeners, there may be a podcast in Hilary's future. So stay tuned. Just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. I have no doubt you probably got way more than you thought you were getting out of this episode. Hilary is just simply amazing. If there's anything that just really hit home for you and you're like, I want to talk more about this, DM Hilary, DM me. I love talking more in depth about these topics. 1 hour just goes by so fast on the podcast. I'm always like, I want to talk more about this. So seriously, DM me. Also, if you haven't, please rate and review the podcast. It really means a lot to me. It helps to get it out to more listeners. And I will talk to you all next week. Have a great one. Thank you so much for listening to us. It means so much to me. If there were any aha moments or anything that really resonated with you on today's episode, then please take a minute and share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you. Also, if you could, please rate and review the podcast as it is new, and that really helps to get the word out there more and reach even more listeners. I'll catch you on the next episode.